Hey guys, this is Nick from Defaced Games, and today we're back with a new video featuring the top 10 best RPG games of 2020 for PC. Most featured games are already released and ready to play, and the rest are upcoming very soon this year. For all mentioned games, you can find links in the description below. Not in any particular order, let's start with our first game. Genshin Impact. The most recent hit game of 2020, Genshin Impact, is an action RPG game that is very similar to Zelda Breath of the Wild in terms of presentation and gameplay. The game features a massive open world full of quests and chests. In-game, you can climb any mountain, swim any river, and glide all over the world. The game's anime-style visuals are top-notch, and you will love to explore in-game just to look at amazing landscapes. The game focuses on exploration, character leveling, and quests primarily, but it has many other features like co-op with friends and dungeon clearing. There are 7 elements in game which you can combine to unleash elemental reactions. There are 23 characters as of now, and each comes with their own unique personalities and abilities. The environment stuff such as lightning and weather all change naturally over time, changing many details of this world. Overall, this free-to-play game is simply the best gacha game ever made. Next, Cyberpunk 2077. The most hyped and most anticipated game of 2020. Yes, the Cyberpunk 2077 is an upcoming first-person open-world role-playing video game being developed by CD Projekt Red. The game is available for pre-order and already it has become one of the most sold video games on Steam even before release. In Cyberpunk, you play as a V, a mercenary whose voice, face, hairstyles, body type and modifications, background, and clothing are customizable. The perk tree branches into melee, guns, hacking, hand-to-hand combat, assassinations, and much more. You can upgrade and purchase cyberware implants, and black markets offer military-grade abilities. In-game, you can take cover, aim, run, jump, double jump, and slide. There are 3 types of ranged weapons, all of which can be customized and modified. Weapon use increases accuracy and reloading speed, which are manifested in character animations. Without a doubt, Cyberpunk 2077 is going to be one of the biggest RPGs of gaming history. Next on the list, Assassin's Creed Valhalla. It is an open-world action RPG set in 873 AD. The game recounts an alternative history of the Viking invasion of Britain. The player can choose either a male or a female character and is able to customize hair, war paints, clothing, armor, and tattoos. The variety of weapons available to the player has been expanded to include weapons such as flails and greatswords. Combat has been changed to allow dual wielding of almost any weapon, including shields, and every piece of gear that the player collects is unique. There is more focus on the stealth aspects for both traversing the game world and in combat. You can hide from enemies not only in stationary environmental objects, but can pull down your hood and slip into certain crowds to use them as a cover. You can use a raven to scout and distract guards, and can access a hidden blade for near instantaneous assassinations. Through specific combinations of approach, tactics, and weapon selection, you can assassinate any boss through a single attack. Moving on to Horizon Zero Dawn Complete Edition. It is an action RPG played from a third-person view. Players take control of Aloy, a hunter who ventures through a post-apocalyptic land ruled by robotic creatures to uncover her past. Aloy can kill enemies in a variety of ways, setting traps such as tripwires using a tripcaster, shooting them with arrows, using explosives, and a spear. Aloy can dodge, sprint, slide, or roll to evade her enemies' advances. Upon killing machines, they drop machine components, including electricity and metal, which are vital to Aloy's survival. She can loot their remains for crafting resources such as ammo, quivers, resistance, antidotes, traps, and more. Aloy wears a device called Focus that scans machines to determine their susceptibilities, identify their locations, and the nature of loot they will drop. Horizon Zero Dawn is praised for its open world, story, visuals, combat, characterization, and awesome gameplay. Next, Baldur's Gate 3. It is the third main game in the Baldur's Gate series, based on the Dungeons & Dragons tabletop role-playing system. The game offers both single-player and cooperative multiplayer element. The player can choose from a wide selection of D&D races and classes, or play as an origin character with a handcrafted background to explore the game's story. Players will be able to take one of their characters and team up online with other players to form a party. Unlike the previous Baldur's Gate games, the combat would be turn-based, similar to Divinity Original Sin. The turn-based system will feature team-based initiative, advantage and disadvantage, role modifiers, joint combat cameras, expand environmental interactions, and new fluidity in combat that rewards strategy and foresight. You are given freedom to explore, experiment, and interact with a world that reacts to your choices. Next on the list, Mountain Blade 2 Bannerlord. It is a strategy action RPG where the player builds up a party of soldiers and performs quests on an overhead campaign map, with the battles being played out on battlefields that allow the player to personally engage in combat alongside their troops. The player can construct a variety of different siege engines and strategically position them before the battle begins in order to target certain sections of the enemy's fortifications. On the overhead campaign map, the player can choose to bombard the walls, possibly creating breaches that can be used once the battle begins. There is an advanced dialogue system to try to persuade non-player characters to do things that they want. Bannerlord also allows characters to marry and have children with their spouse. If the player character dies, one of their children can inherit their soldiers and fiefs and become the new player character. Moving on to Godfall. It is an action role-playing game set in a high fantasy setting, split into the realms of earth, water, air, fire, and spirit, where players take the role of one of the last exalted knights order to prevent a major apocalyptic event. The game is based on the loot shooter concept of completing missions and gaining better loot for further quests. The focus of the combat is on melee attacks rather than ranged ones. The player has 5 weapon classes to select from, based on which of their armor sets, valor plates, they equip. These weapon classes include the longsword, dual blades, polearm, two-handed warhammer, and the two-handed greatsword. Additional valor plates and augments can be equipped to further customize the character. The game supports single player and up to 3 players in drop-in, drop-out cooperative mode. Next, Immortals Fenyx Rising. It is an action RPG where you play a stranded Greek soldier Fenyx, who must rescue the Greek gods from the evil titan Typhoniu. The game is set in a large open world, consisting of 7 distinct regions inspired by the Greek gods. The player character is accompanied by a companion bird named Phosphor, which can identify locations of interest on the map. You can create your character, customizing their gender, voice, and the appearances using Aphrodite's beauty chair at any point. You can traverse the world quickly through climbing cliffs, riding on a mount, and flying using the wings of Daedalus. You can also complete various side objectives and optional puzzles for better rewards. The game has a stamina system, so you have to manage Fenyx's stamina during combat. You can also learn new skills and abilities and upgrade armor and weapons by collecting sufficient crafting resources in the game's world. Next on the list, Trials of Mana. It is the 3D remake of 1995's Super Famicom title with the same name, in which the player controls a selection of 3 out of 6 protagonists, navigating field environments, fighting enemies in real-time combat, and making use of character classes to save the mana tree. Players can meet with other playable characters both before the recruitment and in various locations if they remain outside the party. Upon meeting a selected playable character, the player has the option of either viewing an explanatory cutscene or playing through that character's prologue. While exploring, the player can find items, treasure chests, and hidden areas. You can fight using light and heavy melee attacks when within range. All the characters have specific special skills unlocked through a distinct leveling system. Once the main story is completed, a post-game storyline with its own class is unlocked. And last but not least, Wasteland 3. It is a tactical turn-based RPG set in the freezing wastelands of a post-apocalyptic Colorado. The player will take control of the last surviving member of Team November, a ranger squad from Arizona. It is a squad-based role-playing video game featuring turn-based combat. Played from an isometric perspective, the game features synchronous and asynchronous multiplayer modes. In the game, players need to make various choices which would have different impacts on the game's world and the story. The game includes revamped combat with addition of features like environmental hazards. The players will have a ranger base, which will act as a hub for quests and can also be used for research, gathering materials, and making contact with other factions via radio to set up supply lines. As the player progresses, they can also improve the base. The main campaign can be played cooperatively with other players as well. And with this, we end our list. If you have anything to share, write us in the comments below, and consider subscribing if you want to see more videos like this in the future. Bye, guys.